Finally got a good map. I'm so happy. This is a T92 HMC. This is Tier 10 American SPG. The map is Malinovka. I'm really excited to be on this map because I can do a lot of damage on this map. And that's what the game is about. It's about doing damage. I want to damage things. So in my last video, I was talking about how when I was a kid, we used to have to make tomato sauce. So I'm going to continue that story. So basically, when I was a kid, we used to have to go to the farm and pick tomatoes. And once a year, which was around Labor Day, we would put the tomato sauce into jars. Everybody has their own recipe. My father's sauce was great. And both of my grandmothers made great sauce. My mother was okay, nothing special. I mean, I could live with it. But, like, I could never eat a store-bought sauce. The store-bought sauce was so horrible. I like Prego, but other than that, I can barely eat any of it. You know, my parents' sauce was just so good. I can't eat sauce at any restaurant. And I remember, you know, when my grandmothers died, I remember having that last jar that they ever gave me and holding on to it as long as I could. But the tomato sauce, you know, it's so much a part of the Italian family and cuisine. I put it on everything. I put it on hot dogs. I bake chicken parm. I would eat it right out of the jar. It's so good. Yeah, I miss my grandmother. So if you ever hear me talk about my motorcycle accident, my grandmother died like the week I had my motorcycle accident. Yeah, my grandmother. She actually lived in my neighborhood, so I saw her every day when I was growing up. And every day, because it was a New York winter, I was freezing outside. She would make me lunch, and I would go over to her house, and she would give me a bag for lunch. And I would wait inside of her house because the bus stop, that's a funny story. The bus stop was in front of her house because, you know, my neighbor, Steve Morrow, guy was just like a total loser. If you think I'm a loser, I mean, this guy was a total loser. He was such a loser that on his paper route, his mother used to drive him around in the car to deliver the papers. And so the bus stop had to be at his house. He's not going to go. Even if we tried to do the bus stop somewhere else, he just would insist it's at his house. So I would go to my grandmother's every day on the way to school, and I would go on the way home. Yeah, I'm going to tell you the story. My mother was a crazy woman. And one day I came home. No, I was at soccer practice and it started raining. And I was just a kid. I mean, I could have been like 10 years old. And it started raining and the coach said, "Oh, we're quitting early, 10 minutes early." And I got on my bike and I ran home as fast as I could. And the whole ride home, every time I turned around, I saw rain right behind me. It was so close behind me, like 10 feet behind me. And there was a road, it's called Elmcrest. And I was like, you know, I got to drive on Elmcrest and it's going to go perpendicular to the rain. And as soon as I get up the hill, I'm going to get to Elmcrest and I'm going to get pummeled by rain. And I'm going up the hill. It's actually a very small slope now that I'm an adult. And I'm like turning around, and the rain's right behind me, and I get to Elmcrest, go perpendicular, and the rain didn't keep advancing. So I went around the block, came home, and my mother was locking the door to the house. And my aunt was getting in the car on the passenger side. And I said, "Mom, don't lock the door. You know, I don't have my keys." And my mother said, "Too bad, you should have had your keys." And that was what my mother was. That was her attitude. "No, moms are always loving and nice." So my mother basically locked me outside, got in the car, went to Kmart. Because that's so important to her. So I sat out in the rain for like half an hour. I was sitting in the rain, all soaking wet. No way to get in the house. I was just a child coming home from soccer practice. It was all the Unicums. And I was like, hey, wait a second. My grandmother lives 3 houses down the street. This is how young I was. I couldn't comprehend yet. could just go to Grandma's house. So I went to my grandmother's house, and she said, "Why are you all wet? Why are you coming home in the rain?" In the Italians, they like to sit in the garage, so they had like a giant screen door. We had to renovate their garage every summer and every fall. We had to go through and put carpeting down, put in the furniture and the table so they can sit in the garage. And they had the screen doors. And then in the wintertime, we had to take all that out so they could put in the car in the garage. And all the furniture was still in the garage, but it was packed in the corner. And my grandmother would just be in the garage. It was summertime. So she knew it was raining for a half an hour. And I said, my mom locked me out of the house. And my grandmother never understood any English, but she understood something that I said that day. And the next day, my mother said, she came home angry because I didn't know what had happened. My grandmother had told somebody, probably my aunt. And my mother came up to me. She said, "Don't ever go over your grandmother's house again." She just yelled it at me. And I said, "I'm going over my grandmother's house every day." And that's when I realized that my crazy mother, my grandmother was on my side. And it's my father's mother. So I was like, my grandmother's on my side. When I got a problem, I'm going to go to my grandmother's house, and that's it. And then I just started going to my grandmother's house every day when I came home from school. That was my childhood. Very fun and exciting. And so many funny things. Like they used to love to make macaroni soup. But what they would do is they'd use like a foam plate. And I mean like a foam plate. I'm not talking about a soup dish. They'd use like you go buy paper plates. They would take one of those and they'd put the soup in it. And we would eat it out of there. And it would have like chicken broth and macaroni, elbow macaroni. And they would eat that almost every day at my grandmother's house. Because, my aunts lived with my grandmother. I guess they didn't have my aunt did have a good job, but my other aunt didn't. Because if you don't learn to speak English, you're not going to get a good job. So all of my family that didn't learn to speak English, they never got good jobs. They worked in the machine shops. They worked in the candle factories, the pocketbook factories. I think in the end, my aunt was working making cable TV converter boxes. That's what she was doing. Because I wasn't paying attention, I didn't move east soon enough. Yeah, so my grandmother was, she said one thing to me my whole life. One day, I don't know why she said this. Must have been around 2003 or something. I was visiting and she said she had a cat named Mushka. She said this in Italian. She said that when she was a child, she would say, "Oh, when I a baby, I have a gato Mushka." And she said that she had this cat. And then she said like one other thing, and I was like, that's the most my grandmother ever spoke to me in my entire life, other than, "Do you want something to eat?" She used to make amazing grilled cheese. Man, I don't know what her secret was, but never had anything like it ever again. Her food was so unique, it's just, oh yeah, look at that, $5.99. León, León, ¿qué significa esto? 1,800 damage. My grandfather died when I was relatively young. He was a tab drinker. Tab got to him. I really respect my grandfather a lot now that I'm an adult. I understand now what it means to be a leader. Oh, look at that. What a hero I am. Now my grandfather taught me what it means to be a leader because he was a leader. When something needed to be done, you just do it. You just do it. You don't complain about your allies not spotting. You go and you do it. That's why you see me do it when I play. Because you're not supposed to spot with. That's not the role of that tank. No, I've had to spot with SPGs. When it's 3 versus 3, all SPGs, I'm going to be the one to go spot. My grandfather taught me that, and I also learned that playing Civ 4. You got to be a leader. Oh, look at that. I got a chevron. Cool. 3,400 damage. Nicorn. See if we recognize Captain Quran. I don't recognize anybody. Maybe S. Stalker? Don't recognize any of these losers. Except for the guys I killed. 3,400 damage. I am awesome.